because that's what we'll do. And yes, we are live. So how about this? Or how about that? How about this? Hey, everybody. Welcome in. It is the Audible. It's the footballguys.com podcast. And Tom Brady's a Buccaneer. I don't think it's official yet, Bloom, but we have a lot to get into with this free agent frenzy with the new league year kicking off. And Tom Brady's a Buccaneer. Again, not that shocking. You pointed out that Matthew Berry, after the scouting combine, it said that Buccaneers were at the top of his list, I believe, right? Weren't they the first team he mentioned? And this is a team that we had talked about. More advanced data is coming out about how fit in with Bruce Arians. They're going to make it fit. I mean, for the love of God, and something you pointed out on Twitter is like, it's not a lot of checkdowns in Tampa Bay. They'll make it fit. They'll make it work, and they'll make it work with, well, the greatest quarterback of all time, maybe. We won't get into that debate on this show, Bloom, but Tom Brady is a Buccaneer.
Yeah. Wow. The things that we, it's going to be, I've figured out it's impossible to avoid Freudian slips at this point, because immediately my brain says the things that you stay alive long enough to see. There's so much interesting stuff to tease apart here. Like in the reality show of the NFL, what happened? Also, Ben Vallin. I want to mention Ben Vallin back in February, like February 25th, said, watch out for the Bucs here. So there's the Brady-Belichick relationship. And what's interesting here also is we heard, they had a conversation, it didn't go well, which that had to come from the Brady camp, right? There's no reason the Belichick camp would let that get out there, right?
Right.
And then we kept hearing from different sources, if Brady wants to come back, he's welcome back. I mean, this wasn't about money. Jeff Darlington puts out there like it's the climate and some of these other things, being in the same time zone. It was about it was about personal relationships, I think. But the football side, obviously, this is better for Chris Godwin than Mike Evans. But another thing that again would be hard to wrap your mind around, but may come to pass, is this idea out there that Brady wants to play with Antonio Brown. And there's not anything that we've heard that makes it seem like that's outlandish or we should just throw that to the trash. Now, Cecil, you're also putting out there that this might not be the only big name to join the Bucs. So we may see a reformation of this offense, but still depends on the offensive line. So I don't know, Trent Williams, maybe Jason Peters, something to upgrade this offensive line. So a lot of steps from here to there, but it's going to be a very different offense than the one we saw last year.
Well, and I love the fact, Bloom, that when you do add somebody like Brady, I mean, this is true go for it mode.
Yeah.
Right? You want to see a franchise. This isn't, hey, and then in a couple of years. No, this is like now. We have to do everything now. So when I heard the rumors, and they were rumors from the West Coast, by the way, about Todd Gurley getting traded to the Buccaneers, I checked in with my Bucs guy. And God bless all the people that we've built relationships with over, the last 15 years, whatever it's been, because I was able to check in and say, hey, I heard this. Is there anything to it? And I was told, yes, there is something to it. This isn't the only move that they're going to do. They're not done. Brandon Cooks was mentioned as sort of speed receiver. Antonio Brown was not mentioned to me, but people are putting that dot together based on like Brady and Brown are a package deal and Brady's kept in contact with him and all those sorts of things. But as you note, and what's really exciting is this isn't it for the Bucs.
Yeah.
This is not it.
Yeah, and they were able to, Shaq Barrett, what a difference a year makes for him, gets the franchise tag. They keep Jason Pierre-Paul. They like a lot of the young defensive backs they had playing last year. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Breeze versus Brady twice a year now. That's going to be fun. And then we see as we've been waiting for the CBA. And by the way, can we just say, woo, CBA? I mean, just for those of us in the football industry, while there are other things going on that overshadow all of this, at least we don't have to worry about labor strife potentially interrupting the NFL. So the CBA gets done, and then Tom Brady signs, and now we start to see the quarterback musical chairs. Phillip Rivers with the Colts, Teddy with Carolina, and we wait. We wait on New England. We wait on Chicago. Mariota to the Raiders is a minor move. We wait on the Chargers.
Yeah.
But it look like there's Winston, there's Dalton, Cam Newton. And another thing that I think is kind of interesting is we're seeing the veil pulled back more, right? The Panthers say Cam Newton can seek a trade, and Cam says, I don't want to trade. I don't want any of this. This is not my decision. DeAndre Hopkins, that was kind of
jarring.
Yeah. And then Michael Irvin says, hey, Nuke told me that O'Brien compared him to Aaron Hernandez. So it's interesting as we hear more of the personal side of these things that sometimes makes the crank turn more than football decisions, even though we are most fascinated by the football side.
Right. And don't we sometimes, you always talk about peeking through keyholes, Bloom?
Yeah.
Like once in a while we get to peek through that keyhole, and sometimes you don't like what you see.
Yeah.
Because you're staring at Bill O'Brien. Oh my God. We'll stick with the quarterbacks for now. We will get to everything else that's happened here. And you mentioned Phillip Rivers with the Colts again. Not shocking. Frank Reich and him made beautiful music together. Well, now they'll see if they can reproduce it on an interesting contract 1 year with Phillip Rivers to make a run. So whereas we've heard Tampa Bay is going to go all in and all this type of stuff, haven't really heard that from the Colts yet, Bloom, which is very interesting given the fact like they're close-ish.
Yeah.
But I don't think Phillip Rivers puts them over the top.
Well, do they put them over the top in their division? And then it's, of course, it's so interesting how quickly things change that it used to be, well, how can you get past Brady to get to the Super Bowl? Now it's how can you get past Mahomes to get to the Super Bowl?
And the Ravens are saying we're going to get all the talent. So
right.
Oh my God, what the Ravens are doing.
It's, the mind races think about all this because I forget.
We have no hope as Steelers fans. I'm sorry to hijack the mic, but as Steelers fans, we have no hope. Baltimore's doing too much.
Probably. Boy, did it sting that Baltimore watched Derrick Henry run over them, going out and getting Calais Campbell and Michael Brockers. I mean, that's, you want to talk about like traumatized, and this is how you do your therapy. Yes, yes. But look, Indy got their own war daddy. Maybe the outside of Aaron Donald, and he's going to get paid like Aaron Donald, the war daddy in DeForest Buckner. So maybe the Colts aren't pushing all the chips into the middle. And of course, in the background here too is it looks like based on the structure of the contract, the Panthers can get out of the Teddy contract next year, like $5 million cap hit or something like that. I mean, $5 million guaranteed or something like that. It's a 1 year deal for Rivers. So will the Colts still maybe look to the future at quarterback in this draft? Will the Panthers still look to the future at quarterback in this draft? We'll see. But the Colts made a move to pair with Rivers, and let me take the Rivers part first. Rivers gets a good offensive line. The offensive lines he's played behind with the Chargers sometimes have just been abysmal. So if you think it's not just that Rivers was eroding his skills, his ability to make throws that he was able to make in the past, but it was the offensive line problems, then that gives him a chance. Remember Anthony Costanzo, another thing. All these things have become footnotes that were big news like 3 days ago, right?
Right.
Costanzo not retiring, signs a 2-year deal with the Colts, so that helps bolster that. They have a defense now with DeForest Buckner that at every level of the defense now, DeForest Buckner and Justin Houston plus all the youth they have on the edge, and then the linebacker. Darius Leonard and Anthony Walker and Okereke, and they've got Kenny Moore, and they've got an excellent safety set, and they have a chance now to have one of the best defenses, if not the best defense, because the Patriots lost Kyle Van Noy and Jamie Collins in the AFC. So they're a contender, and how big of an upgrade is it from Jacoby Brissett? Is Jacoby Brissett out there available? Maybe he's the Patriots quarterback. We hear this morning that the Patriots aren't going to rush to fill that hole left by Brady. Maybe they like Jared Stidham more than we think. By the way, Matt Waldman thoughts on Jared Stidham, just free for you at Football Guys this morning. Tomorrow I'll be putting out an article that runs down all the free agent happenings. So all these things are interconnected, and maybe sees the most brilliant team out of all these moves we talked about is John Lynch and the 49ers. Because they pay Eric Armstead, and DeForest Buckner is going to cost $4 or $5 million a year more than Armstead, which kind of reflects the difference in their talent. But they add the number 13 pick. How many times does the team that was leading the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter have the number 13 pick? Positively Belichickian.
And they're probably going to get one of those wide receivers at the top of the draft. So lots of things to get to. Bloom, before we get into other teams, you mentioned the Patriots taking their time. And we're going to get to the Panthers. There's a spoiler alert. Teddy Bridgewater is next.
Yeah.
What if Trevor Lawrence was the Patriots quarterback?
Maybe. Yeah, or Jalen Hurts.
Because, and that's what I thought when the Panthers signed Teddy, I was like, okay, yeah, I remember Brady. Yeah. But I was like, wait a second. I thought they were tanking for Trevor. We know the Dolphins have been a year waiting for Tua Tagovailoa. They'll get their guy in the draft. But I was like, huh. And Brady moves on. And then you go, wouldn't that be just like the universe to go from the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, to the next guy? Now, I thought it was unfair when the Colts went from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck, and they screwed that up, unfortunately. But Stidham as a starter for a year isn't too outlandish.
No, it's not. And
he had first-round tools, by the way. It was last year at Auburn. He screwed up. And by the way, how many quarterbacks have we seen that with?
Yes.
Jordan Love is still going to go in the top 12. And he had an awful senior year. Drew Lock had a down senior year compared to his junior year. So
absolutely. And the whole Auburn offense really fell apart in Stidham's junior year. But coming out of 2017 into 2018, Stidham could have easily been considered a first-round pick. So absolutely. And the interesting thing, if we connect all the dots with the Patriots piece, is that Bill Belichick seems to be in for another rebuild. And which, what else is he going to do? I mean, he has merged with football already. So there's so many interesting pieces in the way all of these gears fit together. The Patriots also could slow pay this and end up with Andy Dalton on basically a backup contract. 1 year, $8 million. They could slow play it and end up with Cam Newton. Remember, Cecil, I know you remember better than anybody. Who did Josh McDaniels go after when he had complete control of a franchise?
Matt Castle.
Well, Tim Tebow.
Yeah, well, he wanted Castle initially. That's why I got rid of Jay Cutler.
Oh.
And then he goes and
I
gets
didn't know
Tim
that. I didn't know that part of the story.
Oh, yeah, dude. He showed up with Cutler and it was like, you're not our guy.
Right.
And
I remember
Cutler
that part.
His agent and said, get me out of here. And it was because they wanted Matt Castle and they couldn't get him. So they got Kyle Orton and then they got Timmy.
And then Tebow with the draft pick. But I think Cam Newton, now is Cam Newton broken? But, Cam Newton, again, they could slow play it. Although the Bears may be in on Cam Newton. So still lots of intrigue left, even though it's the second tier. But again, teams like San Francisco sitting back and saying, and then Minnesota signs Kirk Cousins, ending the dream for Kyle Shanahan to have Kirk Cousins. But, San Francisco could be one of the biggest winners, although I don't even think they've signed a free agent.
They tendered Breida.
Yeah, and Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah, there you go. And you want to keep up with the news? What better way than the footballguys.com newswire that Bloom and I write? So check us out at footballguys.com. Certainly smash that like button. Thank you guys very much. Liking, commenting, sharing the video. If you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. If you're subscribed, make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube and weird and algorithms and blah, 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 blah. But Teddy Bridgewater, we love Teddy. I think all of us on the show have a great appreciation for Teddy Bridgewater. Now with Carolina, I think this is great news for Christian McCaffrey. I think it's great news for Curtis Samuel, to be sure. What does it look like with Teddy there? And you mentioned that contract. This isn't love. This is we like you. We like you a lot. We don't love you. What's it look like with Teddy?
Right. I mean, even if they do draft a quarterback at number 7, Bridgewater can still play his way into a long-term starting gig there, or at least increase his value to be traded when they do decide to install whoever they take. Here's the most interesting thing to me about Bridgewater Cease. I think everybody is forgetting that when he suited up and played last year, it was his first, he played a week 17 game, whatever. It was his first meaningful football game in 4 years. And he got better as he played more. So I don't think we should be looking at what Teddy has done as an indication of what he can do. You have Joe Brady. You saw what he did, for Burrow. Whew. So you have to think that with the targeting of Bridgewater, they're going to do something and see, it's interesting, right? Because you can build an offensive scheme around tools, around a quarterback's mobility, around their running ability, around their arm strength, right? But you can also build around their brain. Tom Brady, Teddy Bridgewater, right? Like you can build around their ability to make quick decisions, validly process the information they're getting, reading a defense, reading a coverage. And I have to think that Joe Brady has something in mind there for Teddy Bridgewater. And it may be a hint as which quarterback, if they do target a quarterback in this year's draft, they would be interested in. But I think it's great for DJ Moore. I don't know if it's good for Curtis Samuel. You don't think vertical when you think Teddy Bridgewater. However, I want to say that Bridgewater did well with Devontae Parker, but that was also winning at the catch point, which isn't necessarily what we think of when we think of Curtis Samuel. So I don't think it's great for Curtis Samuel. Obviously, it's good for Christian McCaffrey.
What about Curtis Samuel's run after the catch ability? Because the reason I thought it was great for Curtis Samuel is the fact that it would be short passes turned into long gains because of Samuel's RAC. It's not Samuel's going deep. It's Samuel's running a 3-yard drag route.
Yes. So if we are looking at Curtis Samuel, not so much as a vertical field stretcher, but running crossing patterns, running quick slants, little smoke screens and things like that, absolutely, it could be good for him. We'll watch Ian Thomas, and we'll see, because the other interesting thing covering all of this, and I'll give a tip of the cap to Jordan Rodriguez, sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, writing for The Athletic. There was a tremendous piece I've mentioned like 5 times already on the show. I mean, it gives me a chance to say Shio Kapadia, Audible alum, one of the best out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really doing an incredible job as the national guy for The Athletic. And it was who could be traded, basically, was the article. I think 42 different players who could be traded as we were going into free agency. And she put in there as a footnote, which seems to be bearing out, Cease, is the Panthers have not made up their mind in the building whether they're doing a full burn-it-down rebuild or kind of a retooling as you go down the road. So I think that Teddy Bridgewater signing indicates a little bit of that. That where is this team going along? There was the Trey Turner for Russell Okung trade. And how do we reverse engineer that to understand their thinking? Remember, this team lost Luke Kuechly, the leader of the team. It would not be shocking if we do see Christian McCaffrey traded at some point in a roster construction team blueprint. So still, to me, more questions than answers. But I do think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be a better quarterback than most people expect. And whether or not it's with the Panthers, he can still have a long future as a starter.
Can't ride 2 horses with one ass, Sugar Plum. Nice. And that seems to be what the Panthers are doing. So if you're John Elway, let's say, because wow, Denver getting outbid by the Bengals, huh? Mm-hmm. Okay. By the way, Derek wanted give us some names. Derek, I'll say this: hey, if you're John Elway, pick up the phone, call Carolina just to see. Mm-hmm. Just to see. You never know. Mm-hmm. Hell, if DeAndre Hopkins can get traded, anybody can get traded. And you mentioned the quickness and the timing, Bloom. Back on the Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers thing, that's the main difference, I think. I don't think it's a huge upgrade, honestly, where Rivers' game is at right now. But Rivers will at least see it quicker and throw it quicker, have a better pace of play than Brissett, who's more of a pure sight thrower than he should be at this point in his career. So we move on and we look at kind of who's doing what here. Briefly, the Tannehill thing with the Titans. What do you think about that deal? Kind of something we were expecting, although the Brady thing was there. So it was kind of like Brady aftermath, right? Brady aftermath means Tennessee, they already made the move for Tannehill before Brady made his decision.
I think continuity is good here. And I think that we cannot overstate how well Ryan Tannehill played last year, whether you use statistics, whether you use the trajectory of the team. This was not a Nick Foles situation where he came in for a few games at the end of the year and rallied everybody and they won a Super Bowl or they won a playoff game they weren't supposed to. This is a sustained game over game, including in the playoffs, highly efficient performance. And most importantly, it's the alignment with Arthur Smith's play calling. It's the execution. Okay, it's just like why they had to franchise Derrick Henry. You know that this guy does what's important in your offense very well. You know that your players riff with this guy. And I'm sure that it's behind the scenes too. There's trust there. And there's this idea of look at what we did with basically half a season to create momentum. What can we do if we keep everybody together? What can we do? So they did lose Jack Conklin. Good signing by the Browns, probably. Don't get to say that all that often. As long as Conklin stays healthy. And that is a good signing for Nick Chubb because, Conklin more a road grader than a nimble pass protector. And why didn't the Titans pick up Conklin's fifth-year option and avoid this scenario? It's because of health. So that's going to be the big question of whether Conklin's a good signing or not. Now, the Titans signed Dennis Kelly. You can do a lot worse than Dennis Kelly as your right tackle. Again, they have experience with him. They know what he can do. Was Dennis Kelly traded for Dorial Green Beckham? Am I remembering that correctly, Cease?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's everything's connected in the NFL.
Cutting through the haze.
I know. Yes. So, I think that's the right decision. They give him $60 million guaranteed. That's fine for the way he played, for his services. That's the going rate. And if for folks that didn't like the Tannehill signing, well, then what do you suggest? Because, okay, Teddy was $21 million a year. Rivers was $25 million. Brady was $30 million a year. Would this team really be better with Brady than Tannehill? I'm going to say no, because you know what you have in Tannehill. You don't need to change anything. You just keep going in the same direction.
Keep going in the same direction unless you're Cam Newton, who was forced out of Carolina, basically. You saw that in his awful font on Instagram, whatever that was. I was like, what is this, Wingding? What's that one weird font, Bloom? Like Wingdings?
Yeah, Wingdings, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't know.
Fig Newtons, we'll call it.
I think Chicago would be the best for him. Mm-hmm. I think Matt Nagy they're looking to move on from Mitchell Trubisky, and we're going to compete. Just bring in someone that's clearly better. That is Cam Newton, if he's clearly healthy, Bloom. And here's what complicates it.
Right.
And we made it 21 minutes in. We've alluded, and again, everyone just be safe out there, stay out of crowds, all those sorts of things. Like do everything, wash your hands, cover your mouth when you cough, all these sorts of things. We're going to get through all this together. But one thing that complicates this with Cam Newton, Bloom, is no one can look at him. I guess they could force the issue if they sign him. We got to have our doctors check you out, but all team facilities are shut down.
Right.
So if you're Cam Newton, you're coming off Liz Frank, and you're a team that wants him, like Chicago, hey, it makes a lot of sense. We don't know where his foot's at. We can't tell. And that complicates things in terms of potential destinations for one Cam Newton.
Who's likely to be released. The last word this morning was the Bears are interested. The question is whether they give up draft capital to make sure they don't have to compete for a market, but everyone knows he's going to be released if they don't find a trade partner. And you're right, Cease. The big question here is he broken? He looked broken, although he's looked broken in the past too. Remember what the Broncos did to him?
Miller's his daddy.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So is he broken? Now they can at least evaluate his mindset at this point. You take away Cam Newton as a runner, though, what do you have? I don't know. So there's a lot of variables here. Another, just as a quick offshoot, I don't know if it was Justice Mosqueda who said this. Usually when it's something forward-thinking, I always think of Justice. That perhaps because of the uncertainty, you mentioned uncertainty with free agents because of the exams and things like that. But with the draft, because teams aren't going to be able to do pro days and individual workouts, that it makes sense for the smart teams to trade for 2021 picks, trade 2020 picks for 2021 picks. We can do more thorough evaluations. So how are teams going to handle this uncertainty, not just with Cam Newton, but with Cam Newton, if he gets signed somewhere and he looks even like 80% of what he was before he was mentally and physically broken, what a coup. You've got an incredible quarterback that you can create all kinds of scheme around. But if he really, truly is broken, and I think what you're going to find, Cease, is what the belief is around the league based on what he gets paid. Is it a multi-year deal? Is he signed to be a team starter for the next 2 to 3 years? Or is he signed to a contract like the contract that Andy Dalton is going to get? And I love Andy Dalton in terms of his reputation versus what he's actually done. He's not a bad quarterback. But
right.
If you're where the league sees Andy Dalton right now, then the league is basically saying, like, your best football is behind you.
And with Cam Newton, we just don't know. And again, Bloom, for me, it's what do you put around him? Like, what is Cam Newton without the athleticism? To me, I'll think of John Elway at the end of his days. What would he have been without Terrell Davis and Shannon Sharp and Ed McCaffrey and Rod Smith? Like, all right, what are you going to put around Cam? And how does that look in 2020 as we continue on through the quarterback carousel, which we're spending most of our time with, about 25 minutes into this show, Bloom. We will get to other positions.
Sure.
But quarterback dominates and the quarterback carousel continues. So we've gone Carolina and we haven't talked about the Chargers. If we think of like Brady aftermath, the Chargers are sitting there. Now they have Tyrod Taylor. If they start Tyrod Taylor this year and draft Justin Herbert, whatever, it's like, fine. And they have Tyrod Taylor. Like, that's not a bad starter, especially if you're going to groom one of these first round QBs. So, but you just mentioned the Okung deal not that long ago. Are they locked in at a tackle now?
Right.
So now if you're the Chargers, you have a very interesting decision. Brady didn't go there. You traded away your left tackle. Do you go get a tackle? Or do you go get Justin Herbert in the first round?
So it's funny because if the Chargers, Chargers under, it seems like everybody got signed to 3-year, $30 million deals, right? Brian Bulaga, hey, I mean, if he can stay healthy, that's a good tackle. So check on one of those spots. And then if they had signed Brady and you had Tom Brady playing behind, one of these top tackles and Brian Bulaga, now all of a sudden you're talking, right? But the trade of Okung for Try Turner seems to indicate a downhill running game. And Anthony Lynn is looking to not turn the ball over, throwing shade at Phillip Rivers, and probably do a lot around the running game. And the question we're wondering, of course, is can Tyrod Taylor dump the ball off to Austin Eckler? Don't be surprised if the Chargers end up with DeAndre Swift or J.K. Dobbins or Jonathan Taylor, because it seems to me that's what Anthony Lynn wants to do. Anthony Lynn knows he can win with Tyrod Taylor. Maybe not win a Super Bowl, but win games. Remember, this team didn't have Derwin James for a good part of the year last year. They do have a stacked defense. They do have a team that can be competitive, even though things went south last year. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, of course, an offense built around Tyrod Taylor can also be built around Cam Newton, something to consider, or maybe even Jalen Hurts. But I think right now, from all outward indications, Anthony Lynn wants to play defense, run the ball, keep the score low. Herm Edwards style. If it ends in a kick, that's a good drive. And we're probably not going to see them do anything too outlandish. But the signing of Bulaga tells me that they're not just tanking for Trevor, because Bulaga is a much needed Band-Aid, at least for this offensive line, even though they traded away a guy in Russell Okung that had a similar value, similar salary when it's all said and done.
Yeah, similar salary. And, well, we'll see about the situation as the Broncos just traded for Jarrell Casey.
Whoa.
How about that?
Hey, do you need
for a late round pick, for a day 3 pick? John Elway did something besides sign Jeff Driscoll.
Right.
So, okay. Don't get DJ Reader. Next move.
Right.
So there we go. It is a Broncos show, right?
Sure. Breaking news.
Breaking news right now. There we go. And we talk about all the spinning around the National Football League. Let's talk about the Nuke thing, the Hopkins deal. Just a shocker. And Bill O'Brien, the GM, is going to get Bill O'Brien, the coach, fired, which isn't a bad thing. But Texans, I mean, if you're Deshaun Watson, why do you stay? I know that they want to get Laramie Tunsil done. I know that they want to get Deshaun Watson done. But when you're doing things like this, when you treat players the way that Bill O'Brien treats players, I mean, when you're on the outs with him, it's done. You're done, like DeAndre Hopkins was. And he'll get rid of you for nothing, basically. So, I mean, just all of these moves, the David Johnson thing, whatever is whatever. Like, we knew there would be some sort of like Brock Osweiler deal. It's ironic the Texans are involved in such a deal again. I just didn't think it'd include DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
And especially after they traded for Duke Johnson. So many things to get to, Bloom. Let's wrap about that while I tweet about Jarrell Casey.
Yeah. And really quickly on the Jarrell Casey thing, what's interesting is that Casey's kid still got he's got like 15 million a year, So could you just brought Shelby Harris back with that money?
Shelby, how do I do this, Bloom? Lassie Bark time. Shelby probably didn't want to come back.
Ooh. Okay. I won't make you say anything else on that.
Yes.
And remember, the Titans drafting Jeffrey Simmons last year sets them up to be able to do this. And now it would have been better maybe if they could have done this before Jack Conklin signed and maybe kept Jack Conklin. Maybe there's something else going on here. Look, Lance Zierlein told us that as early as August last year, they knew, the people covering the team knew, that there was personality conflicts between Bill O'Brien and Hopkins, and that he was maybe going to move on. What shocked the people covering the team was just how little O'Brien got for DeAndre Hopkins. So you have to wonder, right? I won't totally paraphrase. We don't have to say sorry, Joe. And, Jadeveon Clowney, Dwayne Brown, and now DeAndre Hopkins. If the first thing in the morning you run into a jerk, then you ran into a jerk. But if everybody you run into all day is a jerk, then maybe you're the jerk. And that's kind of, I think, where things are with Bill O'Brien and his way of running this team, and why Michael Irvin is speaking out about what DeAndre Hopkins told him about the relationship. So, yeah, it's maybe toxic, but, really the more interesting side here is good on Arizona. And that Steve Keim could somehow convince Bill O'Brien that David Johnson was an asset. Because that's the thing, is if you look at the net, it was a second and a fourth for a fourth, basically, for Hopkins, and a fourth, basically a second and a fourth for Hopkins. David Johnson was supposed to be an asset that you had to send draft capital along to get his contract off the books so you could put the transition tag on Kenyon Drake. And instead, it looks like Texans, Bill O'Brien, are looking at Johnson as an asset, which we need to heed, because if David Johnson can be Carlos Hyde from last year plus some passing down contributions, well, now all of a sudden David Johnson's back from the dead in fantasy football. But for Arizona, getting DeAndre Hopkins with Kyler Murray, it opens up all kinds of possibilities now. Sorry, we'll see if CeeDee Lamb falls maybe to Indianapolis. Maybe to San Francisco.
Because now the Cardinals will get a tackle.
Right. So you got DJ Humphries, and now they can take one of those top tackles at 8. They can really make this offense take a big leap.
We can finally see Cliff Kingsbury's offense.
Yes, exactly. And with Kenyon Drake, and we can start to see this be taken to the field in a way that might get the drop on defenses. It was a tremendous, brilliant trade. If you told me you could get DeAndre Hopkins, even giving him, if he wants $20 million a year, give him $20 million a year. He's at the peak of his career right now. You can get DeAndre Hopkins without giving up a first-round pick. That is a major, major coup, and I love the team building and all the resources going to the offense for Arizona. And Cease, we can look at the NFC East as a division. I'm sorry, the AFC East is a division that might be upside down because of Tom Brady, and the NFC West isn't necessarily upside down. Again, San Francisco gets the number 13 pick, but Arizona is going to be hot on their heels if this comes together.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Seattle's signing Greg Olsen and hoping that Rashard Penny can actually do something in August. It'll pass you by. What's our guy Joe Bryan always say? Things move quickly around here. That's for damn sure. Now, here's where my issue comes in. Multiple issues, Bloom. You didn't get a first-round pick.
Yeah.
You don't have a first-round pick because of Laramie Tunsil. And you didn't get a first-round pick. So and by the way, Will Fuller and Kiki Cutie are never healthy.
Yeah, and Cutie's stuck in the doghouse, by the way. I've got and Randall Cobb is going to be that guy.
Yeah, and guess who's getting traded now or just not played? Kiki Cutie.
Yeah.
Again, like we said with Bill O'Brien, and you're in his doghouse, you're on the outs, You're on the outs. There's no getting back. There ain't no coming back, man. There's your Crow reference. So I speak in movie quotes. And Bloom, here's the thing, second round receivers, right? Now, even if T. Higgins falls to second round,
sure,
that's awesome. But if you would have been able to get that first round pick, and you could have gotten CeeDee Lamb, who I think is the closest to DeAndre Hopkins in this draft class,
sure.
Now we're talking. So again, it was incomplete. Stefon Diggs, let's go ahead and jump into there, right?
Yep.
Many things to get to. But look at what the Stefon Diggs haul was. And Bill O'Brien's like, I don't like you. I'll take whatever. Like, you can't operate like that. You can't operate with those personal, vendettas, if you will. You're only hurting yourself, Bill O'Brien. Yes. So let's talk about Stefon Diggs now. Very exciting.
Sure. And really quickly on the O'Brien thing, this is where maybe being a younger coach and being able to relate more to players could be an advantage. So, although Bill Belichick did okay with that. Check him out at the Halloween skating party with Randy Moss back in the day. Anyway, Stefon Diggs. Well, we knew Stefon Diggs wanted out. That wasn't Lassie Barks. That was like that dog on the corner that runs along with you and says, I'm going to bite out your jugular vein every time you go past the house. Stefon Diggs was not subtle at all. And he got out. So first thing that comes to mind when I look at the Stefon Diggs trade is what we've been seeing, and it's not going to change under the new CBA. When you have a starting quarterback on a rookie deal, you push all the chips in the center. It's a win now window. We have the win now windows with the aging vets like Rivers and Brady, but you also have the ticking clock of having a starting quarterback for a minuscule fraction of what a starting quarterback costs. That means you can overpay. Think of it like the team blueprint. You're going to, this percentage of the cap goes to this position. This percentage of the cap goes to this position. You can cheat when you have a rookie quarterback and put more money in positions than other teams can with their roster construction. So you put Stefon Diggs out there, and Buffalo sees that window. Now, Stefon Diggs, it's probably at best a push for fantasy football, because they have John Brown, because they have Cole Beasley, of developing Dawson Knox. And Josh Allen, as much as I love him, his downfield accuracy last year was terrible. It actually regressed. And that's something where we've seen Stefon Diggs be an outspoken player. Everybody's saying, what's over-under on the week that we have the first Stefon Diggs outburst because Josh Allen can't hit him when he's open downfield. But still, going into the week, trying to game plan defending this defense is going to be rough. Defending this offense, defending this passing game, it's going to be rough. They give up a little bit more than Arizona gave up. First round pick number, it's like what, number 22 instead of number 40. Now, in terms of the wide receiver class, that might, if you're talking taking a wide receiver, that might not be that significant. Buffalo, Josh Allen obviously gets a bump here. But when you look on the Minnesota side, obviously Adam Thielen gets a bump, and Irv Smith, you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets. And a lot of Dalvin Cook, and not very subtle offense, keeping Kirk Cousins throwing the ball 20 or 25 times a game. That blueprint now they're doubling down on without Stefon Diggs. But remember, this was a Bills team that was going after Antonio Brown last year. So they got their guy this time.
They got their guy for young Josh Allen. And just think about Minnesota's offense, Bloom, as you mentioned with Irv. I'm not going to say George Kittle, but if you want to say George Kittle impression,
Delaney Walker.
Yeah, that's the offense. That's the old Shanahan Kubiak offense. So let's go as we continue to discuss what's happening across the National Football League. Help me out here, Bloom. Where else do we have to go?
Austin Hooper. Well, let's stay with the Minnesota offenses. Let's stay with the Minnesota style offense. Kevin Stefanski gets his guy Austin Hooper, 4 years, $44 million. What's interesting here is the immediate reaction might be, well, is David Njoku going to get his 5th-year option picked up? Or is this another sign of that 2 tight end offense? And again, they get Jack Conklin. So Cleveland's blueprint seems to be not that different as Austin Hooper gets paid. See, I still think he's a pretty average starter in NFL terms, but average starters set the market in free agency.
Yeah, especially when he's the best one available at the position. It, to me, doesn't seem like they like David Njoku.
Right.
That's just to me. Maybe I'm totally wrong, and they love him and can't wait to use him more. By the way, trade for Andy Janovich. So there you go. And tender Kareem Hunt. Anyone make a run at him? Probably not.
Round.
Second round?
No. Second round tender. They're going to keep Kareem Hunt. And I think that...
Do they use him more then? Do they use him as a receiving option? And obviously Jano's going to smash holes open for Nick Chubb, but I don't know, maybe Kareem Hunt gets you. And by the way, OBJ's not going anywhere from what everyone says. Is like, that's kind of a pipe dream. Like maybe they could trade Odell Beckham Jr. Nah, maybe they won't. And then getting Case Keenum, Bloom, to back up Baker the Baby Maker. Give him, that veteran presence there.
and you draw the lines. Who was Case Keenum's quarterback coach during his best year as a pro? Kevin Stefanski. So it makes sense. And if Baker Mayfield gets hurt, or at least you can almost see Case Keenum as a quasi coach for Mayfield in year one, saying this is how to make this scheme work. I made it work. You can do it too. It's running down some more things that are interesting. Things that caught my eye. Hey, the Bengals signed a couple of free agents. Wow, a couple of somewhat big ticket free agents. I don't know if the Trey Waynes signing is going to be great, although that probably means that Dre Kirkpatrick is gone and DJ Reader, as we're watching the big name defensive tackles move around. So maybe some signs there that, hey, this team is going to not be so cheap with Joe Burrow as the starter. And of course, we warn a little bit for AJ Green that he got the franchise tag. Can they give him the contract he deserves at the end of his career? But hey, maybe we won't have the Bengals to kick around in 2020.
Didn't AJ Green say he'd stay away too?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's going to be staying away because of the coronavirus. So, like, when he was tagged, the first thing I thought of was like, wasn't he complaining about the tag? He kind of vacillated a little bit last year because AJ Green was like, I'm fine with the tag. And then he's like, I won't show up with the tag. Well, nobody's going to show up now, but okay, he's tagged and we'll see what they do there. You think that's what they're telling guys? I mean, honestly, and I ranted about this last night. I'll save you the details, Bloom, because I was just like so upset. Like, if you're the Broncos, how do you get outbid by the Bengals? Are the Bengals a more attractive destination if you think of Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah.
And of course, AJ Green and all the weapons that they have, and certainly Joe Mixon and all that. Like, okay, like, maybe that's something in their pitch.
Yeah,
hey, well, we're gonna get Joe Burrow.
Exactly, and even Joe Goodberry, love Joe Goodberry. One of the favorite people in our world, not just for football and everything, but you could see the delight. Oh, really? I won't quote him because I don't want to say sorry, Joe. But there was this, really? We got the free agent, but we went after a big name free agent, and then another team sees. So the things that we can do, teams don't lie during the draft. They don't lie during free agency. Miami becomes really interesting. Now, I don't know about giving Eric Flowers a 3-year, $30 million deal. However, he was a much better guard than a tackle. And it's interesting how the compensatory pick system rewards teams for rehabilitating careers. If you bring someone in on a cheap deal and you show everybody how good the player can be, but you can't afford them or don't want to pay them at the top of the market, you get a comp pick for that. So Washington, not an organization, Cease, that we've been talking about as rehabilitating careers. Washington gets a nod here. And they actually, on the tail end, by the way, signed Wes Schweitzer. A couple of guys like Wes Schweitzer, B.J. Finney. Our Steelers lost B.J. Finney. He goes to Seattle. Those glue guys, that sixth offensive lineman that saves you on game days. So, maybe Schweitzer, who's been doing that for Atlanta, could be an adequate starter to replace Flowers. So they get Eric Flowers. That's good for Jordan Howard. So Melvin Gordon, where's the market going to be for Melvin Gordon now? Denver? See, really quickly, you want to comment on?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. There's the big possibility that Denver makes a move for Melvin Gordon there because they're looking for running back help, whether that's the draft or whether that's free agency, and they want pass catchers. That's clear. I mean, that's why they deal Andy Janovich after they extended him last year. So Melvin Gordon, yes, but Melvin Gordon is going to even get what Jordan Howard got.
Nope. And that's the thing is that Miami gave, apparently there's a lot of talk about the interest between Miami and Gordon. They showed Gordon their offer. He said, no, thanks. I said, fine. We'll just get Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard gets Eric Flowers, a road grader. But the thing you look at here is Byron Jones, Miami. And I know South Beach, fun place to be where there's a VIP room inside of the VIP room. But Byron Jones, one of the top 5 most coveted free agents, period, like across all positions, goes to Miami. And now look what you can set in motion with Xavier Howard, Byron Jones. Bam! You've got the outside passing game locked down, okay? Now they signed Kyle Van Noy. Flores knows how to use Kyle Van Noy. They sign Shaq Lawson. Now, Shaq Lawson could be one of those guys that came on just in time to get paid and then fades back. But boy, is this defense going to create a lot of coverage sacks for Shaq Lawson. And they also signed Emmanuel Ogba. So really interesting stuff here is Miami isn't slow playing the rebuild. Miami now with this defense and with the Chan Gailey, Ryan Fitzpatrick offense, with Preston Williams getting healthy, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki coming on, et cetera, et cetera. Now, they still have some work to do on that offensive line, but this is a team that, see, if you're going to say, name the top 3 teams that got better during free agency, Miami has to be on that list.
If not at the top of that list.
Yeah.
So, and the Chan Gailey offense, can't wait to see it. By the way, our man Lucifer means Lightbringer, jumping in the show. Watch his YouTube channel. It's phenomenal. If you love Game of Thrones, if you love life.
A lot of new videos coming, I heard, too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what a great community that we have as we run down the news and notes from across the National Football League. What the hell are the Raiders doing? Besides snatching up every linebacker, Nick
and
Kwiatkowski
Cowboy
and Corey Littleton, and then Jason Witten?
Yeah.
Like, what the what? Like, you have Foster Moreau, and Darren Waller, who was second in the NFL in receiving yards by tight ends.
Yeah.
You kind of sat there. I don't think you need Jason Witten.
Right.
And Marcus Mariota, fine. You didn't get Tom Brady. And, Mariota wants to go. I talked to Tennessee guys out at the Combine because I had written about, hey, Marcus Mariota looked pretty good as a backup to Drew Lock. And I mentioned that to my Titans guys, and they're like laughing at me. And they're like, oh, no. Marcus wants to go somewhere he can at least compete, even if they don't publicly say that. So knowing that from team people, Bloom, if the Raiders sign him, knowing Mariota's intentions, they may not say like he's going to compete with Derek Carr, but he's going to compete with Derek Carr.
Yeah. Mike Mayock loved him. Mike Mayock had him as his number 1 quarterback over Jameis Winston, and that has to play into that. And absolutely, when your career fails under your rookie contract as a first-round pick, it gives you at least some ability to choose your next destination based on fit and based on opportunity. With the Raiders, we have a mixed grade. I think it was Vic Tafer, another longtime great beat writer, who said that the Raiders were hot. They had 3 3-pointers in a row, and the Jason Witten signing was when you pull up from 27 feet, and do a heat check and miss the backboard. So it happens. But they immediately, it's interesting how linebackers were a hot commodity. The off-ball linebackers were a really hot commodity early on. A lot of them found homes right away. So they get Corey Littleton and Nick Kwiatkowski, who will immediately rehab that defense. But they also get, again, the idea of glue guys, a guy like Jeff Heath, a playmaker in limited time, not necessarily a top-end safety, but with how often teams are putting 3 safeties out there, that becomes really interesting. And they also add Malik Collins, another Cowboy. So 3 Cowboys. They add Malik Collins, a penetrator, a gap shooter on the interior defensive line. So Vegas making moves. The Raiders, and what we like about this, especially when teams have a big wallet of cap room, is we see what they value in players. We see what they think of their current roster, maybe what they think of some of the players that they need to upgrade from, or maybe aren't figuring in future plans. Remember, today is under the new CBA. Now you can do the classic June 1st cap cut where you spread it out over 2 years. So the other shoe is going to drop in some of these cases. But like the Dolphins, the Raiders did not sit on the sidelines and showed you what they thought of the players in free agency and where they're going to be improved this year.
Javon Hargrave's gone.
Yeah.
Makes me sad.
Yeah.
Makes me sad. Saw him at the Shrine game. What was he? South Carolina State, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, man, this guy is balling. Player. Steelers get him. It's great. And now he's gone.
Yeah.
I'm sad again.
Yeah. It's congratulations, Eagles fans.
Congratulations. By the way,
you
know what will pick up my spirits? The laugh that I will get, the knowing that Joe Flacco's on the trade block.
Right. Who can... Well,
huh?
I'm not sure that. Speaking of June 1st cap cuts, so
yeah, that's coming about noon today.
Yes, Hargrave and Fletcher Cox next to each other. Hulk smash.
Ooh.
Very nice. Yes. You got to love that for Jim Schwartz's defense. Hargrave is a player. The Steelers just could not keep Bud Dupree and Hargrave. This is not a player so we usually say if a player makes its free agency, you ask why. The why is the Steelers cap situation, and they're restructuring everybody under the sun so they can afford to keep Bud Dupree. And it makes sense because really, who was going to play the other outside linebacker position if they didn't keep Bud Dupree? But that's a big win for Philly. Although I think that Philly was a team that we thought maybe they would get Byron Jones.
Mm-hmm.
They decided they didn't want the word is they checked on DeAndre Hopkins, and because he wanted a new deal, they said thanks, no thanks. Huh? huh? So the
Right.
Eagles may be underwhelming a little bit as a player in free agency, even though they did get a baller in Javon Hargrave.
Till they signed Chris Harris Jr.
Ooh.
See, by the way, when you mentioned Hargrave and Fletcher Cox together, I almost did a. You can tell everyone's watching a bunch of movies, but I almost did a Big Mama's House too. Like,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah. Humana.
Sherry.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's another one for you,
can
Cecil.
trust Big Mama.
Also, and that takes me back to
Come on,
Hercules.
Skip.
Hercules. I don't know if Hayden Hurst is Hercules, but do I dare see? So this is a hot take. I'd rather have Hayden Hurst than Austin Hooper in fantasy football this year.
I mean, I'd rather have airline food than hospital food. Like,
Ooh.
it's about because
we'd rather have
at least
either than
Hooper's
Jimmy
done
Graham.
something, right? I'm
That's
not the biggest Hooper guy, but at least he's done something. With Hurst, it's just like potential. Like, I'd rather pay for production, but
true. Well, look, potential. Okay, unpacking the Hurst deal. If you like the situation, then Hurst inherits a tremendous situation if he can stay healthy. But how about Eric DeCosta? You spend a first-round pick on Hurst. He's hurt or stalled out in his development for 2 years, and you get a second-round pick back? Wow, Eric DeCosta. Ozzie would be proud. We also saw the Bears sign Jimmy Graham. See, so I did the gif of the muscle guys shoveling the money into the furnace. But the Bears also get Robert Quinn. And Robert Quinn is a player that, since plateauing with the Rams, really came back in a big way for the Cowboys last year. Leonard Floyd's out there now. That's going to be interesting. Leonard Floyd released.
Denver.
Okay. So, I mean, I didn't automatically put him with Denver because they've got Chubb and Miller. Cece, is that based on their initial evaluation of Floyd, or go ahead? Is it Vic?
And it's good because they can move him around.
And Vic knows what to do with him.
Yep, and they might even line him up at ILB. And you let Shaq Barrett go. You replaced him with Malik Reed, who didn't get a sack. Like, you need more pass rushers than just Miller and Chubb.
Yeah, so no, it's true. You can never have enough pass rushers. So that's going to be interesting. So the Robert Quinn signing, pairing him up with Khalil Mack is excellent. The other interesting thing, if you start connecting the dots, is Dallas is going to get a bunch of comp picks. I mean, they signed Amari Cooper. And again, if they had signed Amari Cooper a few months ago, maybe they were able to keep Byron Jones. Or otherwise have a little more control over their destiny. But so the Bears, a big thumbs up on the Robert Quinn deal. The Jimmy Graham deal. Do you watch football? I'm going to pull the Lammey there. Football, do you watch it, Ryan?
Football. Peace. It is something that we all love, and we love to watch. About 7 minutes left in the show. Sure. It's our public service announcement time, Bloom.
Oh.
I know some people took issue. Maybe I started this topic too late. Some people took issue with like the NFL continuing on and they're tone deaf and blah, blah, blah. It's something we need. I'm not saying this selfishly, about like, we needed this. All other sports are down right now. We need to all, first off, be kind to each other. Secondly, wash your hands and all the great stuff that they're telling us to do, and social distancing and all that stuff. Like, we need to listen to that stuff. We need to take this incredibly seriously, and let's all be good to each other. How about that? But to have this to be able to talk about and to have that breakaway, we're getting some comments in the chat room about that as well. It's like to be able to have that distraction. It's much needed. So, again, I know people take issue. Like, I don't care what these 24-year-olds are making millions, blah, blah. And I get that, man. There's a lot of people hurting out there right now. There's a lot of people hurting financially. There's a lot of people hurting physically. There's a lot of people hurting emotionally. Like, I get that. I understand that. It's good that we have this to discuss.
Sure.
Because these are trying times. And again, let's all just be good to each other and let's make it happen, Bloom.
Yeah, look, what this represents to me, first and foremost, is there is a future. There will be a future, We are much more fortunate than our ancestors who lived through pandemics because we have scientific knowledge, and there will be a vaccine. And hopefully, in the meantime, we can buy time to save the health and lives of our loved ones until this we are able to create a vaccine. And again, I want to make sure to emphasize to people, there are people in their 30s, people in their 40s, even in Dallas County, people in their 20s in ICU having machines do the breathing for them right now. So this can affect you. We don't quite understand why it hits some people so hard. If I gave you a bowl of 500 Skittles and said, do you want a Skittle? By the way, one of these will kill you and another one will maybe damage your lungs permanently. You say, no, thanks. So let's practice all of the social distancing and sanitation as much as possible until we know more about what's going on. But yes, there will be a future. I live in New Orleans. Now, I wasn't here through Katrina. I wasn't here through the rebuilding of Katrina, but we won't have to rebuild any of our buildings. We won't have to, at least our world is intact. But the most important thing on our world is what we're fighting for, which is humans. And I pray for everybody during this time that we can see how rich we've been all along, not because of our bank account, not because of our job title, not because of our status, but because of the humans that we have in our life. And thankfully, we also live in a time that right now, we can connect with each other. We can connect with the people in our chat room, even the people who hate us. Because, hey, all publicity is good publicity, right? If you're watching and coming on just to hate us, that's good too. We're providing some sort of service, and I'm happy to provide that service like I did yesterday with my Tom Brady take. Look it up. Anyway, we still have humans. We still have the humans in our lives, and we still have the ability to be part of each other's lives. And we're situated perfectly, Cease, because we've always been here to distract and help you cope as the things in life scratch and tear and wear you down. We're a place where we can come and put that stuff aside for a second. And that's, we put the fantasy in fantasy football, right? It's not reality. It's an escape from reality. So we're here for that, but we're also human beings, and we're going to acknowledge what's happening and how this is changing all of our lives. But I think that if we have to hit pause on public life and pause on commerce, hopefully, first and foremost, take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and let's all get through this intact. It can be a moment to recenter yourself, to have gratitude and appreciation for the things we have that are impossible to value in terms of dollars, which are the people in our lives and the ability to affect each other's lives. And wisdom is always hard earned, right? I mean, the people that lived through World War II and the Depression, the wisdom that we could see through their actions, your grandpa that would reuse aluminum foil, even though it had specks of food on it, even though you can go get aluminum foil for cheap, we are going to hopefully pass on more compassion, more sense of the interconnectedness of everybody and how our fates are shared, and caring about each other. We care about each other. Football guys, we care about all the people that we're serving, that you all give us this opportunity. And we've created all these inroads through podcasts. You've mentioned our man Lucifer means Lightbringer. We've created all these inroads through podcasts, but really it's just to keep each other company. Like our leader, Joe Bryant, says, walk each other home at night. The night is dark, but we're the light.
Yes. Thank you all for checking out the Audible, checking us out on iTunes, on Spotify, and of course our YouTube channel right here. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, all the things to help out the channel. And of course, check out footballguys.com for all of your football information. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I think some of those Tom Brady trolls followed you over
Good.
to our YouTube chat room. That's fine. Hey, if the service we provide is that you get to come here and blast on us for being fat slobs, then go for it. That's awesome. Good for you, bud. I'll give you John Elway there. I'm Cecil Lammey at Cecil Lammey on Twitter. The show is at the Audible. We say thanks very much for listening and watching. Stay tuned. As always, stay frosty.
Wash your hands.